Imagine a society where the moment you write down a law, you're officially uncivilized.
Right, or a world where Thomas Edison, I mean, the guy who illuminated the modern era, isn't even considered a scientist.
Yeah, exactly. And we're blaming modern technology for, like, your daily stress is treated as a total joke.
Roughly as ridiculous as calling an orange a double-edged fruit, which is a real analogy we're going to get into.
I love that one so much. Welcome to another custom-tailored deep dive, everyone. Today we are looking at an excerpt from a pretty heavily philosophical essay.
Yeah, it's titled 39, Science and Civilization.
Right. And, okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to explore this author's incredibly strict, just uncompromising definitions of human behavior.
And science.
And personal responsibility, yeah. I want to look at how this text strips away all the external guardrails, the things we rely on, and places the burden of civilization entirely on you, on your own internal choices.
Before we jump in, I should probably step in with a quick note.
Oh, right, the disclaimer.
Yeah, so the source text contains some pretty strong philosophical and theological viewpoints, especially about the greatest creator and the nature of religion.
It definitely goes there.
It does. And I just want to assure you listening that our role here isn't to endorse these views or take sides. We're just impartially unpacking the author's arguments so you can fully understand the original text.
Exactly. We are just the messengers today. So let's dive into that first massive, totally counterintuitive claim.
The definition of civilization.
Right. How does this author define it if it has literally nothing to do with, like, advanced governments or high-tech infrastructure?
Well, the foundational premise is that true civilization is entirely an internal state.
An internal state.
Yeah, it's a conscious, voluntary behavior that a person exhibits when they correctly understand how the world works.
Okay.
And the ultimate sign of this, like the true sign a society is civilized, is the complete absence of conflict. A society maintaining perfect harmony without any laws, regulations, or supervision mechanisms.
Wait, I gotta jump in there. Humans living in perfect harmony without any laws.
That's the claim.
I mean, no police presence, no security cameras, no threat of a fine. It sounds like a complete utopian fantasy that just ignores human nature entirely.
I know, it sounds wild.
How does a society function if there's no fear of punishment keeping people in line?
Well, the author argues that if you only behave well due to a fear of punishment, you aren't civilized at all. You're just compliant.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a sharp distinction. Compliant versus civilized.
Right. And the author brings this abstract idea down to earth with a couple of really mundane scenarios. The first one is simply eating a banana on a bus.
Ah, yes, the banana peel test. I love this one.
Go ahead, lay it out.
So if you finish that banana and just throw the peel out the bus window, you are operating at the absolute lowest tier.
Completely uncivilized.
Right, because you only care about your immediate space. You're keeping the floor under your feet clean, but you're ignoring the fact that you just littered the street or, maybe hit a pedestrian.
It's a total lack of awareness of anything outside the self.
Yeah.
And then the next tier up is what the author calls more civilized. This involves hiding the peel under your seat and just quietly walking away when the bus stops.
Which is fascinating because, you're avoiding the public shame of throwing it out the window.
Exactly. You don't want people looking at you.
But you still aren't taking responsibility. You're just shifting the burden to the poor person who has to clean the bus later.
Right, which leads to the truly civilized approach.
Holding on to it.
Yes, you hold onto the peel, you carry it with you off the bus, down the street, until you find a proper trash bin. And you do it simply because it's the right thing to do.
Regardless of who is watching.
Exactly. And that dynamic, who is watching, becomes the absolute crucible in the next analogy.
The newspaper stand.
Yeah, because the banana peel is about basic courtesy, but the true test of civilization involves money and opportunity.
Oh, this is the one with the unmanned stand on a busy road.
Right. So newspapers are exactly $1. There's a stack of papers, an open money box to make your own change, and absolutely zero surveillance.
No cameras, no owner.
No social pressure at all.
This one hits way harder because the guardrails are completely gone. And the author breaks the customers into 4 categories.
Start with the top tier.
So the truly civilized person puts their dollar in, takes exact change, and lifts the paper right off the top of the stack. They govern themselves entirely.
They respect the harmony of the system.
Right. Then you have the less civilized customer. This person puts their money in, but they start digging around in the cash box to find, like, the crispest, cleanest bills for their change.
Oh, yeah.
And instead of taking the top paper, they yank one from the middle, messing up the whole display.
Notice the distinction there, though. That second person is technically following the transactional rule.
True, they paid for
They paid.
it.
But they are completely ignoring the harmony of the system. They're acting selfishly within the bounds of the law.
That makes a lot of sense. Then you drop down to the uncivilized tier. This person looks over their shoulder, sees the coast is clear, and just takes a newspaper without paying.
Right, maybe they even take two.
Yeah, justifying it like, well, the owner was dumb enough to leave it unguarded.
Exactly. And finally, the fourth tier. The person who just walks up and steals the entire money box.
Wow.
And the text rightly points out that this isn't even a lapse in civilization. It's just straight-up criminal behavior.
So when you look at those four tiers, the underlying philosophy becomes so clear. Civilization is not defined by the legal framework that punishes the guy who steals the box.
No, not at all.
It's defined by the invisible framework of the person who pays exact change when no one is there to force them. If you need a camera to make you pay for a newspaper, the society isn't civilized.
The society is just a well-managed prison.
That is such a heavy thought. A well-managed prison.
Yeah.
Which really forces us to look at the tools we use, in the dark.
Right.
Because if civilization is entirely about what we do when no one is watching, it completely shifts how we view technology.
Oh, big time.
And this is where the author tackles this massive contradiction. We have this deep-seated habit of blaming our external tool science technology for our internal failures.
It's a very pervasive psychological comfort, honestly. The text highlights how common it is for people to look back wistfully at some, imagined good old days.
Like remote villages where doors were never bolted.
Exactly. And those same people look at the anxiety of the modern world and place the blame entirely on scientific development.
Yeah, the text lists all these societal ills that get blamed on science. The hectic pace of daily life, environmental pollution, psychological stress.
Resource depletion.
Right. People even blame science for atomic bombs or the internet facilitating cybercrime and illegal drugs.
It's the ultimate scapegoat mechanism.
But wait, I hear the logic, but I struggle with giving the toolmaker a completely free pass.
Okay, push back.
Let me push back. If a team of brilliant chemists discovers a new synthetic compound, right, and manufacturing it, ends up polluting a river and destroying an ecosystem,
Sure.
how can we say science isn't at least partially to blame? Without that scientific discovery, the river is still clean. Doesn't the pursuit of that knowledge carry an inherent shared responsibility for the destruction?
That is the exact trap the author is trying to expose.
Really?
Yeah. To answer that, we have to look at the author's incredibly rigid definition of what science actually is. According to the text, science is exclusively the activity of discovering and explaining the objective laws of nature.
Objective laws. Okay.
It is pure discovery. Science is the knowledge of how chemical bonds work. But science didn't build a factory next to a river.
Right.
Science didn't choose to cut corners on waste disposal to maximize profit. Human beings made those choices.
So it's the difference between the fundamental truth of the universe and the greed of the person applying it.
Exactly. Science discovers that splitting an atom releases massive energy. But science didn't draft a military strategy, build a bomber plane, and decide to annihilate a city.
I see. Blaming the foundational knowledge for the violent action of the user is a massive logical fallacy.
A huge one. And the author highlights the absurdity of this blame game through a thought experiment they call the Xiao Wang scenario.
I absolutely love the dark comedy of this part.
It's so good.
So imagine a man named Xiao Wang commits a murder. If society decides to use the logic that we should blame the source of the problem rather than the user making the choice.
We can't legally blame Xiao Wang.
Exactly. We have to blame his parents. Because biologically, if his parents hadn't given birth to him, the murder never would have happened.
And once you start pulling that thread, it just unravels everything. If his parents are guilty, well, they didn't create themselves out of thin air.
So the guilt transfers to Xiao Wang's grandparents.
And you just keep following the chain backward. You blame the ancient ancestors of humanity.
But they needed a habitable planet to evolve on, so the Earth is guilty of murder.
Right. But the Earth relies on the gravitational pull of the solar system, and the solar system relies on the galaxy.
Which leads to the ultimate Just inevitable conclusion of that logic. As the author points out, if you trace the blame for a human action all the way back to its absolute origin,
The responsibility must fall entirely on the creator of the universe.
it perfectly exposes the absurdity. If we blame the concept of science for human sins, we are logically forced to either blame the architecture of the cosmos for everything.
Or destroy humanity entirely to prevent future crimes.
Yeah. We want to blame an abstract concept like science because it's genuinely terrifying to admit that human beings are consciously making uncivilized choices with these incredible tools.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's much easier to say, the internet corrupted my child, than to say, I failed to teach my child how to navigate an unmonitored environment.
Ouch. Yeah, that hits home. And if tracing the blame backwards is that absurd, then our entire cultural vocabulary around technology is deeply flawed.
Definite.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The author points this out by attacking one of the most common cliches we use. We hear it all the time with AI or social media.
The famous double-edged sword.
Yes. The author clearly despises the phrase, science is a double-edged sword.
With a passion.
They argue that if a tool is double-edged simply because it can be involved in good and bad outcomes, you've rendered the phrase completely meaningless. By that logic, the sun is a double-edged ball.
An orange is a double-edged fruit.
A television is a double-edged machine.
It's a fantastic rhetorical dismantling. If the potential for misuse makes something double-edged, literally everything in existence qualifies.
Yeah, the text points out that by this logic, your own parents are double-edged people because they're capable of doing wonderful and terrible things.
To ground this, the author gives us a much more accurate framework.
Yeah.
The simple kitchen knife.
Okay, lay it out.
Science is just a freshly forged knife. A person can take that knife, chop vegetables, prepare a meal, and sustain their family. They use the tool to create health,
Right.
but another person can pick up that exact same knife, walk out into the street, and commit a robbery.
And the crucial point here is that the metallurgical properties of the knife did not change between those two events.
Not at all. The sharpness is identical. The carbon content is identical. The outcome depends 100% on the wielder, not the metal.
So if you're listening to this on a smartphone right now, the author would argue that the piece of glass and silicon in your hand has zero moral weight.
None.
If you feel like social media algorithms are ruining your attention span or making you angry, you can't blame the engineers in Silicon Valley. The tool is neutral.
You are the one holding the knife.
The responsibility rests entirely on your shoulders as the wielder. That is a really tough pill to swallow for a society that loves to outsource its anxiety.
It really is. It demands an immense amount of personal accountability. But this strict definition of science as a perfectly neutral, objective truth, it demands a totally different level of respect for the people who forged these tools.
Oh, right. The gatekeeping.
Yes. The author sets up some extremely rigid, highly controversial gatekeeping around the title of scientist.
This part really challenged my assumptions. The author essentially strips the title away from like 99% of the people we normally apply it to.
The criteria are incredibly specific. According to the text, a true scientist is only someone who discovers a universally effective law of nature, society, or thinking.
Okay.
But mere discovery isn't enough. The crucial second requirement is that they must be able to clearly describe and explain this law using language.
Wait, let me pause on that second requirement. Why is language so vital?
What do you mean?
Like, if I'm highly intuitive and I somehow perfectly sense the changing patterns of the weather, but I can't write down a meteorological equation, why am I not a scientist? I still know how the world works.
Because discovery, without articulation, dies with the discoverer.
Oh, I see.
The author insists on language because a scientist's job is to bridge the gap between the chaotic mysteries of nature and human civilization.
That makes total sense. If you can't translate the universe's invisible law into human language, you haven't contributed to collective knowledge.
Right. You've just had a personal epiphany.
Yeah.
You have high intuition, but you are not a scientist.
It's about codifying the invisible into the visible. And the text gives a yes list that tracks with this. Isaac Newton is a scientist because he articulated gravity.
Albert Einstein for relativity.
Marie Curie for radioactivity. They all revealed fundamental, mathematically sound rules about reality, but then we hit the author's no list.
And it is brutal.
It is entirely disruptive to our modern vocabulary. The text explicitly states that Thomas Edison was not a scientist.
Yeah, that one throws people.
I had to read that twice. How can Edison, one of history's most prolific inventors, the man who practically built the modern electrical grid, not be a scientist.
Well, this goes back to the distinction between pure discovery and practical application.
Okay.
The author argues that people who make inventions based on pre-existing theories are engineers, inventors, or technicians.
Ah.
Edison did not discover the fundamental laws of electromagnetism. He brilliantly engineered physical applications based on those laws.
So, to use an original analogy, a scientist is the person who discovers the invisible physics of aerodynamics. But the engineers are the massive team of people who use those formulas to build a Boeing 747.
Exactly. The engineers are brilliant, but they didn't write the laws of physics.
Wow. And the author applies this so rigorously. The people who took Einstein's theories and actually engineered the atomic bomb. Not scientists.
Just highly skilled scientific workers, according to the text.
The author goes even further. What about a brilliant university professor who spends 40 years teaching quantum mechanics to thousands of students?
The text says no.
No. If you are just explaining someone else's theories, you are a teacher, a disseminator of knowledge, not a creator of it.
What's fascinating here is how protective the author is of this title. The author views the title of scientist as deeply sacred.
Sacred.
Yeah. To use the word loosely to apply it to a lab assistant pouring chemicals is, in the author's view, an insult. It tarnishes the profound generational rarity of truly uncovering the hidden architecture of reality.
So why is this title so sacred? Where does this obsessive, pure pursuit of natural laws ultimately lead humanity?
This is where the text takes a very specific, almost theological turn.
Right. And as a framing note for you listening, while our goal here isn't to debate the specific religious vision of a greatest creator, it is absolutely vital to understand how the author uses this concept.
It anchors their entire philosophy of civilization.
Exactly. So what's the synthesis of the entire essay here?
Well, the author opens the text by stating that religion, at least as it has been practiced historically, walks hand in hand with ignorance.
Okay.
But science and civilization walk together. The argument is that without the discovery of scientific laws, humans are nothing more than blindly wandering animals with no future.
But the author isn't making an atheist argument here. They are completely redefining where the divine is actually found.
Right. The text argues that the greatest creator did not create historical religion. Instead, the creator created science and created scientists.
The philosophical mechanism here is really elegant, actually.
It is. The author observes that the universe is not a tangled, chaotic mess. It operates on incredibly strict, mathematical, predictable principles.
Planets orbit in specific ways. Cells divide based on coded instructions.
Light travels at a constant speed. Because the universe is orderly, it implies a design. Therefore, discovering the scientific laws of nature is quite literally the act of discovering the mind and blueprints of the creator.
Which means the scientists are the ones actually reading the holy text of the universe.
Exactly.
It's a complete inversion of the historical friction between faith and science. The author boldly claims that scientists, the rare few who discover these laws, are the individuals closest to the creator.
The true scientist cannot possibly deny the existence of the creator, because they spend their lives staring directly at the creator's mathematical handiwork.
By this logic, science isn't an alternative to faith. Science is the highest, most rigorous form of reverence.
And the author finishes the essay with an absolute mic-drop challenge for anyone who still romanticizes the past or views modern technology as a curse.
Oh, I love this part. They argue that despite all our growing pains, human society is definitively moving toward civilization. The present is vastly more civilized than the past.
It is a fiercely aggressive optimism.
It is. The author lays down a gauntlet. If you truly hate science, if you hate the complexities of the present day, and you genuinely believe the past was better.
Take off your clothes.
Yes, take off your clothes, destroy every single possession you own that was built by scientific knowledge, and try walking out into a primitive forest to live.
See how much you enjoy that uncorrupted existence.
It's a blunt, highly effective reminder that the baseline comforts, the health, and the lifespans we take for granted are entirely built upon the back of scientific discovery.
We survive because a handful of minds managed to articulate the invisible rules of nature.
So, what does this all mean when we put the pieces together? Our deep dive today has uncovered a radically different way to look at our world.
A complete paradigm shift.
Yeah. True civilization is not a legal system. It is your internal behavior when the guardrails are completely removed. Science is not the villain behind our societal stress. It is a perfectly neutral tool, a kitchen knife.
And we have to stop blaming the cosmos for how we choose to wield it.
Exactly. And the true scientists aren't just inventors, they are the rare map makers of reality, bridging the gap between the mind of the creator and the future of humanity.
This philosophy forces a really deep level of introspection. And I want to leave you, the listener, with a thought experiment to mull over based on the author's newspaper stand analogy.
Oh, this is a great exercise.
The text makes it clear that true civilization requires no supervision. Think about your daily life right now in the digital age. When you are navigating the internet, when you're in an unmonitored comment section operating under an anonymous username with no immediate consequences for your actions, which customer at the newspaper stand are you being?
Wow.
Are you acting with true internal civilization, leaving that digital space better than you found it? Or are you just taking advantage of the lack of a camera to yank a paper from the middle of the stack?
That is a phenomenal question to carry with you. Are we actively building the invisible architecture of a civilized society, or are we just throwing our digital banana peels out the window and expecting someone else to clean it up? Thank you for joining us on this custom-tailored deep dive. Keep asking those hard questions, keep examining the hidden laws of your own behavior, and we'll catch you next time.